the purge of 95,000 voters, people didn't show up. I know some of the people in this room showed up. We went to the state capitol, we testified, and David Whitley lost his job. He wasn't confirmed as the Secretary of State. In the fight against Senate Bill 4, we won some very important legal victories, and we also inspired a new generation of Latino activists, social justice activists to get involved in Texas politics. And we have to keep on fighting. One last story I'll share is from a different community, but it's on the same issue of who should have a voice. And so when I was running for Congress last cycle, I learned that students at an historically black college in the Texas 10th were also going to be denied the right to vote. And so you may know about Prairie View A&M University. It's in Waller County, Texas, which is basically the last county before Harris County, on your drive out there. And this is an historically black college that was built on the plantation of a former slave plantation. And it was founded, they were promised that they would be on par with Texas A&M. Of course, that hasn't happened. And the students there have had to fight every step of the way for dignity and respect. Even to the point that when they lowered the voting age from 21 years of age to 18 in this country, the 26th Amendment in the 1960s, those students started to vote in Waller County, but the Waller County officials didn't like it. And they told those students, you're not residents of this county, you can't vote here. And in the 1960s, culminating in 1971 at the US Supreme Court, those students took their fight to the courts and actually won a battle, a case called Sim v. United States, that won the right for every college student in this country to vote where you attend school. So if any of you have ever voted where you attend school, or have kids or grandkids who have done the same, it's thanks to those kids in Prairie View over there in Waller County.
Awesome.
But unfortunately, that didn't stop those officials in Waller County. And so every 10 years they would come up with a new tactic. And in 2018, what they did is they told the students 2 days before the voter registration deadline, you're not eligible to vote because you registered to vote the wrong way. And so it gets a little nuanced in what happened. But basically, the students don't have on-campus mail delivery at Prairie View. And that's also a problem. There's some reasons behind that. But because they didn't have on-campus mail delivery, they don't have a postal box to call their own. So they were told by the prior elections clerk, okay, register at this generic address. Then a new elections clerk came in and said, that address is in the wrong precinct. You know, this is from the same party, both Republicans. You can't vote on campus on election day. And so this was obviously a huge concern, and I did something that's pretty basic for a lawyer. I wrote a letter. And I had some local Democrats, other candidates sign it. And I had my organizer for that area, an awesome kid named Jacob Aronowitz. I had him, hand deliver the letter to the county judge. And he hands it to the county clerk who's there to receive it, and he takes a picture of himself handing it over to prove that he delivered the letter. And the clerk objects. She said, what are you doing? She calls the bailiff over to stop Jacob, and he's prevented from leaving the building. And so at that point he calls me on the phone, not as his boss, but as his civil rights lawyer, and says, what should I do? And I say, well, and he has me on the speakerphone. I say, ask them if you're free to leave. And they say no. And then he's basically surrounded by 6 or 7 law enforcement officers, sheriff's deputies. Ultimately, the Waller County sheriff shows up. A figure just out of Dukes of Hazzard, if you can get the image in your mind. But they say, what's this about? I said, well, I'm just delivering a letter. What's the letter say? It's about the right to vote of students at Prairie View. Why are you doing this? Well, I work for a congressional candidate. He's concerned. What party is the candidate from? And I hear this, and he says Democrat, and I hear a chuckle, and then the phone goes dead. And it turns out that the county sheriff had ordered him arrested and held for 48 hours investigative detention.
Yeah.
And we had a local attorney show up. He only spent 4 hours in jail. And, he was a good sport about it. It was building his credibility among his fellow political organizers. And, he was charged with failing to identify himself, which is not a real charge. If you're not suspected of a crime or if you're not a witness, you don't have to identify yourself. But it turned out good things came from this. The next day we held a little rally at Prairie View, and Congressman Al Green came, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee called in, and we got the local news, the Houston Chronicle. And then that night we got a call to say, could we appear on the Rachel Maddow show the next day? And so Jacob and I appeared on the Rachel Maddow show the next day. She did a 19-minute history telling the whole struggle for voting rights in Prairie View. And the day after that, I got a call from the former Texas Secretary of State, who said, how do we fix this? And he ordered the county to let the students vote on campus on election day.